get all your nervous energy ramped up because that's what we need.
I have none.
I know. We're just talking.
All right, cool.
Let's go.
So welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of the Driven Leader Podcast. We're so stoked to be getting this thing underway. Today, I'm rejoined by Eric, but we also have Mary joining the round table, and it's just the two of them. It's just the three of us talking today, specifically about just driven leadership. It's all about driven leadership today. I wanted to give a lot of context for our listeners, for people who may not be familiar with driven. Literally just point blank, what, who, why is driven leadership? So I want to go back to the very beginning and hear from you guys directly. When did driven leadership start? Do you have the first memory of like, oh snap, like this is something that we are actually going to do and run with?
Oh, yes. 100%.
Yeah. You want to take that one, Mary?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric and I actually were working with a different leadership company at that time, and there was a lot of change in our lives. And it's interesting because I always say when one door shuts, another one opens, and sometimes we're literally forced. And if we were being forced out of where we were, and I was frustrated and confused because I love people. I love helping people. And we were walking on a beach in Southern California, and I was crying. Like I was just pissed at where we were in life because I had given everything. So Eric, in his McGrath fashion way, says, Mary, what do you want to do? You know, it's not about what's not working. Like literally, he processes me all the time. What do you want to do? Like
Not the healthiest way to run a marriage sometimes. I'm just saying that.
Or a business.
And I don't run the marriage, by the way. I'm digging a hole for myself right away.
No, I do.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that.
But I was walking on the beach, or we were walking on the beach, and I just remember being frustrated and angry because I was stuck. And he goes, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I never, ever wanted to be a business owner. Like I never saw myself as a business owner. I just loved helping people. And so we just started talking about just what we love to do, what I love to do. And I said, I just want to help wake people up. Like it was just like all this was just those moments where it just comes out. I don't even know what I'm saying. Because you want to start a business? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, what would you call it? And I said, Driven for Life. Like it just pops out and goes.
Really? Because that was a big question I was going to ask. Like, how did you, because it's a gripping word, like driven. It has impact behind it. So I was like, surely there had to be some workshopping that happened to get to that point. But you just, on the beach, spewed it out.
Yeah.
Saw the cars driving by, like, that's what I want to do.
No,
maybe.
the beach has always been really our creative space anyways. But it was just one of those things that it just came out, like it just, like from the depths. Driven for Life. And Eric goes, why Driven for Life? And I literally had this vision of people, like their lives were their cars. Like they were stuck and they were in the driver's seat, but their car was parked and it was stuck. And I just had this vision of giving them the tools to put the mother effer and drive, take their foot off the brake and go. Like it was just like whoosh. And he goes, okay, well, if that domain's not taken, then let's take it.
Jump into logistics.
No, I know. It's just like
right.
GoDaddy.com, $14.99. And it's, one of those things that you know that you know that you know. If you ever had those moments that you knew, and it was one of those defining moments, and we get it, $14.99, drivenforlife.com, boom. And then we parked. We started it, and then we got scared.
Yeah. Is that how you remember that whole moment, Eric?
Yeah, so I do remember we were walking on the beach. I do have a tendency to move into practical. How are we gonna apply this? So, I was when she said driven for life and she got passionate about it. And if you know Mary and she gets passionate, you're kind of like she is a freight train and get out of the way or get on board. I mean that's where you're at.
Yeah.
And but I heard driven for life and I'm like, that doesn't sound like a company name exactly. I was I'm like, okay, how does that connect to business? I started going into all that, but she was so dang passionate. I'm like, okay, we'll figure that out later. This is great. She's in it. She doesn't want to run a business, but I'm the opposite. I'm like, I want to run a business. I've run several businesses. I'm just like, we'd been working for someone for about 10 years in a leadership company. We were just like, I was not wanting to go work for somebody else. I wanted to go create something.
Yeah.
And so here she is saying, okay, if we create it around this, then I'm in. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go. Because that's what I always wanted. I always wanted a partner to run with. I always wanted, and I know people go, well, don't be in business with your spouse. And while it's not easy, I mean,
It's the best thing ever.
it is so cool. Like it's just been amazing, but it's also, there's a little give and take. So we got driven for life, we go look it up, and and it was like, okay, let's go. And then we start getting, and then I go, okay, well, we need a business plan. We need a strategy.
We're like, what's that?
And
Mary's like, we just start doing it. I don't know.
Right,
so
that's me. I just do it.
Mare and strategy is, I mean, if there is a word that shuts her down faster, that is it. Like she runs from the word.
Collaboration.
She literally, I go, hey, can we have a strategic planning session? We'll spend a day, and we've done several of these over the years. She's like, well, will I be able to sleep? Will I be able to like what's it? So
I
anyway,
start yawning.
But no,
And then I always have to poop.
what was okay? We're gonna edit that part out. Mare.
I don't think so.
Come on.
Always.
It's true. It's true. I don't know how that works, but it's there.
Always.
Okay, but no, I think for me, we're walking on that beach and it was really cool to be. I mean, there was this cool little connection thing. Just seeing her passionate, but I got excited. I'm like, man, I've missed running a business and being part of creating something and stop having limits and then a business about helping people stopping having their limits and helping business grow. It was just, I just got excited. I mean, that's what it was. I was excited about where it was going.
And
Was
then
there
we got
any
scared.
time like, yeah, well, and that's what I was gonna say. Like throughout the coming months, obviously, I imagine y'all did have the strategic planning and you got all that stuff. What was the first moment that you got over the hurdle of like, this is scary, will this work? And it transitioned to, oh no, like this is going to be a viable business for us.
So it didn't happen right away. I mean, we got the GoDaddy.com. And when I say we parked, I see people in their lives and I'm like, oh, I'm driving. No, then we parked. And just not knowing how, we got stuck in, well, how are we going to do this? And yes, we have this vision. And yes, there's passion. Yeah, how? And that was October. Oh my goodness, October 2008? No, 2000.
Before we started driven?
No, 2009. Yeah.
Okay.
When we were on the beach. And then, so a couple months go by, and I came across this women's leadership, and it was about goal setting, and I was lost. I was still working with the other company, but I was doing it remote. And those who know, I love people, and I have to have people in my life. And it was like the life was just sucked out of me. So I signed up for this women's leadership, and I sat in there, I'm like, I could teach this class. And I'm like, stop it. You could just be the student, right? And I'm like, I just needed accountability to kick me and to go. And in there, the gal it was like, what are you waiting for? In fact, our women's leadership, we called ourselves the Broad Squad. And we held the highest level of accountability. Eric's out. He's in Las Vegas training for this other company. We're in California. I find an attorney. I book an appointment with the attorney. I have no idea what a business attorney is. He goes, do you want a LLC? Do you want a, S Corp? Like, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. We're going to be big, just. And so I just said, sign us up for an S Corp. Like, I literally did not know. That's how we started Driven.
Give
like,
me your
literally.
biggest business.
Sign me up.
And he goes, and it was women owned. Like, I seriously did not know anything. And I just call up Eric. I'm like, hey, I'm 51% owner. You're 49. And
That
yes,
is how
we
it
have an
went
S
down,
Corp.
by the way.
100%. And so the crazy thing, and I'll let you talk, Eric, in a minute.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I just
you're good.
overtook. So there was a guy, and I tell the story a lot. Those of people who've been through different classes of ours, or I talk about mentors and leaders. There was a guy named Jason Lindstrom that worked with us at this other company, and he pulls me into his office, and he goes, Mary, you and Eric are meant to do something. Whether you do it with us, whether you do it on your own, whether it's a blend, like whatever, just go do what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, who does that? I was one of their number one salespeople, one of their top trainers. Eric was like, it was crazy. And
this was a guy at the previous company
Yeah.
that y'all were both at.
He was actually the CEO at that time. He
Yeah.
was
he was
and
one of the best
awesome.
leaders ever. You
Yeah.
talk about a thriving mindset. Jason Lindstrom, he lives to help people step into their greatness.
Even if that means letting them go, do their own
Just
thing.
let him go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's literally how everything starts happening. And he goes, just use our database. Okay. So we're set up as a consultant. And he said, just add value. And so we went in, our first sale,
Well,
very first sale.
Just for clarity, there was a contract in place.
Oh,
If
yeah,
we got
yeah.
somebody from their database,
Yeah,
they got
yeah.
kicked back. Like there was an arrangement. It wasn't just
Yeah.
go
No, but
take
he was
over.
just like,
Here.
right. But it was one of our clients at the other company. And
Yeah.
I went in. So this is me. Okay, this is how we
This is
started.
the best story ever, Connor. Oh,
Mike Sod with Desert Air.
this is a
Says-
different story. Never mind.
Oh
Different
no,
story.
we have lots of stories. Mike Sod with Desert Air says, I would love for you to come in and work with my techs, and I'm like, great. How much? And I said, $1,000. So it was $1,000 for the morning for whatever 4 hours. And I'm
Yeah.
like, fantastic. I'm like, Eric, we made our first sale. Like to date, we still have a picture of this check.
Yeah.
What I didn't know, I didn't do my research. It was at the border of Mexico. So I had to get a hotel. It took me 5 hours to drive down there, 5.5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Get a hotel, spend the day, have to come. We didn't make any money, like zero
Yeah.
money.
Well, we spent money.
We
That-
didn't
no,
spend
that
money.
wasn't the first. That was your first sale to a company.
Yeah.
The very first sale. She's so excited. She's like, I sold a coaching client. She's like, I'm gonna coach somebody, and I go,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's exciting. How much did you sell it for? And she goes, $50. And I'm like, $50? I'm like, okay, well, it's $50 for an hour. I mean, I don't know where you're gonna get with that. And she goes, no, I sold him $50 for 13 weeks.
No, it was
10?
10.
It was 10?
sessions.
10 sessions. And I go, okay, so you sold $50 an hour for 10? No, $50 for 10 hours worth of work. And I'm just,
You'd get the deal of a lifetime.
I'm like, so we're viewing ourselves, and I mean, I can look at this clearly now. I mean, we priced ourselves and our self-worth and kind of stepping into it, which again, so ironic that we're going in and we want to help people with all these type of things. And yet here we are faced with it on our own going, okay, we think we're worth $5 an hour. And we're below minimum wage at that point in time. I'm like,
what'd you
last
do
time
for
I made
free?
that type of money was bartending at my hourly rate, not including tips,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway,
So once you got those first couple contracts, was that the moment where you were like, okay, like there's no turning back, like this is it,
No.
this is viable, we're good?
No.
Or did it take a little bit longer for it to really settle in and
it was,
No,
realize this was a long-term play?
we were doing both. So we were still with the other company
Oh, right.
and doing kind of both.
Yeah.
And
I would go
and
back
then-
for 2 weeks to where they were. They weren't based in Southern California. I'd go back to where they were 2 weeks. I was running parts of the company in management, and then she would do some training for them. And then a lot of really it was an agreement where we were offering certain training that they didn't do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was something that we brought that they didn't have at the time. So our first year, we had a couple 100,000 in sales, and it was a good start. And that wasn't a couple 100,000 in profit, but we had enough to live.
Yeah.
We're doing okay, and we're like, okay, we have a good partnership. We can make this work, and then all hell broke loose the next year. Literally everything fell apart within a month of each other. So so we got this deal with this company. It's going well. We got leads coming in. We really don't have to do much other than develop some training, and which we knew how to train. Thank goodness. We knew how to get in front of a room and connect with people and do those type of things. But the next year, Mary goes in for a checkup, and they want to do a biopsy, and they do a biopsy, and they make a mistake, and they cut into her colon. And so they didn't know they'd done it. They sent her home, and we spent, without getting into all the details of it. So the next, I don't know how long it was. It was
12 hours, my body was shutting down. It
well,
was going septic.
yeah. Okay. So I was going to say 7-8 years because that was the ride we were on from that point. So for the next, give or take 7-8 years, Mary would go in and out of being able to function, not function. And the reason being, so they accidentally cut into her colon. And so she went septic, she did all those things. And then they had to cut out that hole and repair the colon. So they open her up, they do all that stuff. And then they repaired the colon incorrectly, but they couldn't figure out that it was incorrect because every time they go look at it, it would be correct.
Clean up.
Yeah.
Because it should clean her out and it fix itself, and then when she'd eat, it would not work. So 7-8 years later, she finds a doctor, they get it fixed, and so literally that 7 or 8 years, one day we got Mary kind of normal, where her nutrition level, because she could get some food into her, and then the next day she can't stand, and so my job.
I was going to say, but it was in the first surgery when I'm in the hospital, because I was in there for 5 days.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when people go through traumatic things, and for some reason our brains don't even comprehend that as traumatic. I'm just like, yeah, I just got my colon, surgery, all this stuff. And I'm like, it's not a big deal. I'm going to be fine. And I'm walking the hallway with this nurse, and the nurse goes, "You don't understand. You almost died." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm looking at the people in this floor and just seeing the life is sucked out of them. And I just remember, I'm like, this fight in me. And the nurse goes, "No, the person in the room next to you, the exact same thing happens, and they're not living. You almost died." And it was like this, talk about a wake-up call. And I walked out going, I'm not going to settle. And for me, everything changed. And that's when I went full board into Driven, because I was scared, and I was done just playing half-ass. And I'm like, okay, I'm all in. And Eric was still in the transition, but and then he got into, it was 7-8 years of just, yeah.
Well, what do you mean by the transition? Oh, just getting into it and like being
Yeah.
like, let's go. I was still scared. I'm sitting there and I'm like, and her health wasn't great. The other thing that happened at the exact same time, so she goes, all that happens at the hospital. The company that we used to work for, that we had this deal with, they hire a new CEO. So Jason's out, new CEO comes in. New CEO does all the things we do and has a whole company behind it. So within 1 week, she's down, lose her, no longer have the client access that we had, and we no longer have the leads. We no longer have the income. Everything goes to zero. So, yeah, I was scared out of my mind. I'm like, okay, she's the connector. I'm the one that likes to be behind the scenes and organize, and organize probably the wrong word. I like to lead, that kind of side, vision, all that. And so we spent next 7 or 8 years in and out, figuring out how to do it, figuring out who we were. Somewhere in there, I don't know how many years Mary would know, but like 3-4 years in, we're like, we need a product, we need a training that is just better than anything we've ever seen. We need something that blows the doors, because the company we work for had a product like that, and it's an amazing product, and yet we saw a lot of different ways to do it. We saw some things that really worked, and we saw some things that were like, man, if we tweak this or we change this or we move this and so we started digging in, and Mary actually went away. We went back to the beach for a couple of days and wrote Bold, somewhere in the middle of everything that was going on after she got out of the hospital and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's not even, I hate talking about Bold this way, because business people watch this and it's like, okay, what is this thing? It exceeds our expectations every single class.
Every class, the first class we go, is this a fluke? And then the next class, oh my gosh, they got even better outcomes. Is this a fluke? And then we realize, we're like, oh my gosh, we're on to something.
Yeah. We're like 50
And you're
classes.
saying you still have that feeling like when you
No.
ran it
No.
a couple months
now.
ago? Okay.
No. Now we're like, no, we know.
No.
We
Yeah, you're
know.
confident in it. Yeah.
But man,
You're
Connor,
talking
we're
about
like,
the imposter syndrome.
I think we're like 50 classes in somewhere along the way, and we finally decided this works.
Yeah, after 50. Yeah.
Hundreds of people have been through. But it was what happened there is we still don't know how to run a business, really. I mean, we're figuring it out. We still got the imposter syndrome. We're up there teaching leadership, and I remember we went to a training, and we fly into. The training's supposed to be in San Antonio. And we fly. This has only happened one time. Mary booked our tickets.
Mm-hmm.
We fly into Houston. She just had the wrong place. Okay, we're hours away from where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
We land in Houston. They have lost our bags. Okay, so we're supposed to be training, and this is like this is a big deal. We got invited to this thing. It's all these high-level salespeople in this amazing company, and they're looking for somebody to come in and really lay it down from a training perspective. I'm in shorts and I
thought you flew in like a full tux, like back in the 60s, right? You're not getting off the plane in your suit. No problem.
But here's where it got crazy. So we land, no luggage, okay, and it's not showing up for a couple days, is what they're saying. But the more difficult, they go, just go buy some clothes. Here's your budget. We'll refund you. Well, where we were at in our business and what was going on, we look in the bank account and there is nothing. Credit cards are maxed. So we're like looking at, and we're like, we can't go buy this stuff. So I get on, I'm literally on with the credit card company negotiating a couple $100 so we can buy some clothes. Yeah. We buy some clothes, and I can tell you that the reason I bring this up, and that training, our lives changed that training. Because we went in there and it was the best work Mary and I had ever done. And I'm not. It was like, I don't know.
Out of body experience.
Straight up.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
We're in this training and we're in front of these people, and this is a multi-billion-dollar company, and it opened the door for the foundation of what we really built the company on, which was to have the cash flow and to have the client base and to do all the things. And the people there that some of them may be on here that helped open those doors. They had no idea where we were at as a company, but they were like, but we were offering enough value for what they were looking for to where it started to take off. And credibility, I think that went with it, So there was just, and it wasn't just credibility to the clients, it was credibility to ourselves. We're up there and we're busting our butts all the time, but internally, we're still sitting there looking at our bank account and going, we're still doing this wrong, man. It's
Yeah.
not working.
Yeah.
And,
how many years into Driven was that
Mary,
training
when
in
was
San
that?
Antonio?
How long ago was that?
It's like 2018.
Yeah, it was.
So it was a solid
2018.
8 years in.
Yeah,
before
so
you had the-
Mary had just gotten the surgery that had helped her like get back to her, to where
Yeah.
her everything worked, and it required. So when we're there, it wasn't just the training was awesome. It was Mary is amazing with people because she cares. Like she literally, authentically, just connects with people, and she really wants to see the lights come on with them. That's her superpower, and so she's running around there and just connecting with people differently than other people did, and created relationships that we still have that are long lasting. And yeah,
That's amazing.
took her getting back together to before getting it all being whole again to be able to
Yeah.
make this thing move.
You know, it's
Yeah.
crazy because Eric and I, we used to talk when we look at people and they go through massive adversity, and even our kids. It's like you don't want people to go through adversity, and then we changed and we realized that adversity is a gift. And when people embrace the suck and they look for what the lesson or what they can do in those moments of adversity, when people believe in the vision and their passion and their dreams and they get up day in and day out, we talk about the 1%, things change. You step into your gift, you make shit happen, and it's amazing. Adversity is a powerful gift.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be where we're at today without it.
Yeah. Well, in those 8 years when you're facing that adversity, obviously, I don't imagine that that's your mindset of like, yay, more stuff to get through, more adversity.
No.
So
Not like we
for,
want it.
like for the people who may be listening to this and in their business, they're in the shit, they're in the 8 years. What was y'all's mindset as you? What was your foundational piece? Eric, you said a minute ago, like y'all spent that time figuring out who you were as a husband and wife running a company. What was the answer to that?
The answer to who we were?
Yeah.
So I would say what we figured out there is, so the other piece to this puzzle is, Mary and I got married the same year we started Driven for Life at the time. It's now Driven Leadership.
Nice.
So our marriage, we just walked you through the first several years,
Yeah.
right? And so part of this was discovering who we were together,
Yeah.
under some of the most challenging situations. I mean, just to us forming a class together back then was even like a 4-hour program was an argument you couldn't believe. Because I'd see it one way, she'd see it another way. We operate in completely different fashions. Just learning how to build a training together took years. Learning how to communicate with each other took years.
We fight with passion.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of amazing because now, and this for years now, when we get in an argument and it lasts, some of them last 30 seconds. I mean, it's not, and they really are, and we deal with it and we move on. If it's a really
Say,
bad
"We're
one,
sorry."
it might
I
take a
even
little
say,
bit
"I'm
longer.
sorry.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
But so and I don't, whether or not somebody's in a marriage and running a business together, or whether or not you've just got people obviously that you work around and the relationships matter, learning how to communicate under stress and pressure makes it all work. You know, because it's the stress and pressure moments, right? So when things happen, how do we work through that? And when we start having success coming out of the fire together, you start to build wins. You start to build confidence in each other. You start to believe, and I genuinely believe this, in a training environment, if I'm training with Mary, I have not, even if something brand new that we're doing, we've never done before, I've never even seen it before, we've created it on the fly,
Yeah.
we'll land it.
Yep,
And I don't mean that
100%.
in a cocky way. I don't mean it. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the crazy situations we've been in training, from different personalities to all sorts of things the people, there's a variable in a training, right? You've got this other audience that's there that's bringing a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know how they're going to respond or react.
Yeah.
And especially in our type of training. And to be in those environments with her, she and I would train together for years. We just trained together. And the reason being, we go out there and I go, okay, if I don't know, she's going to know. If she doesn't know, I'm going to know. And if neither one of us know, we're going to figure it out. And that was always our mindset. So what happened was we started, the depth of connection because of the fire we were going through was incredible.
Yeah.
And it still is. And we just had, I think it's 14, right? Did I get that right? 14 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Last week, right?
Yeah, last week. And we were talking about it. It's like, and it's not just to say it. It's like more passionate, more in love, more excited, more looking forward, not just to the future, but who we are, like all those things. So you go, what happened? If you want to talk about the business, we can. But the reason the business started to work, the reason all these things, everything that Mary's talking about was because we started figuring out us. We started figuring out what is the thing. What does she need? What do I need when we're having these tough conversations? When it's hitting the fan and it's not going right, what am I really afraid of? And what is she afraid of? And how can we talk about the real things that are holding us back? And can we talk about how we're communicating with each other? You know,
And respectfully.
She is a feeling person, and I'm a overly assertive, abrasive guy sometimes. You know, and so I'll walk into our office and I'm like, hey, we need to talk about this. And she would go, you know, and it was like, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And the flip of that, she wanted to talk about something. And then I'm like, we aren't even talking about what I thought we were talking about. We're starting over here. We land over here. I can't put it together. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so by learning each other and by learning who I'm in this foxhole with better than anybody else and going through it together, the business reflected us. And that's what we see. We go into all these companies and we see that over and over again, whether it's a big company or a small company. A big company, it's the leadership group. How do they communicate? How do they work together? How much are they in the foxhole together, or are they in the foxhole with their guns pointed at each other? Because quite frankly, a lot of these big companies, the egos and all that stuff that get involved in it, you know,
whatever that is reflected back through the whole company.
Because what they're doing, and they don't know it, they are enabling it everywhere. You know, so you know, it's.
But can I add something?
Yeah, please.
So even the values, the foundation, what Eric was saying, we didn't let each other quit, ever. One of us would want to, and the other would go, "What the F are you doing?" Like literally, and we never allowed each other to be in that mindset at the same time. And then one of us would grow and the other one could not stay behind. It's like, it was weird. Like, and it still is. We challenge each other. So at the core, there's alignment, 100% alignment. Our values are aligned. We don't do everything right, yet we believe in being 100% authentic. What we teach is who we are. And it's my mom laughed. She goes, "Of course you called your company Driven because you're driven." And so it never letting each other quit, but never quitting. It was being so, and it was belief. We believed in what we did. And with those core fundamentals, and for me, faith was huge. Like, okay, so and now what? Like literally, so and now what?
Yeah.
Get back up, get back up, get back up. When I wanted to put sometimes the covers over my head going, I don't want to get up today. Get back up. Eric would get up or I'd get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's I will say it's a lot easier when the person you're in the foxhole with is the most passionate human being you've ever met in your life, you know? So there's a lot more of me sitting there looking at the math and going, okay, the math isn't mathing. And her going, screw the math. We're doing it anyway. But going back to how it impacts companies, right? We go into these companies. Leadership typically don't realize, people in leadership roles, and I'm talking the title side of it, because leadership is about how we influence, and everybody's a leader in one way or another. We firmly believe that. But the people that are you got put in this role to influence. The title supports your ability to influence. And how, and people go, well, it's how I lead my direct reports. And I'm like, that is such a small, myopic part of what being in a company and really being a leader is. It's every interaction. It's every meeting. And the only way you start running every meeting and every interaction at a higher level is if you become a higher level person, a higher level leader. And most people aren't putting the time into where am I struggling? What am I afraid of? Where am I struggling with communication? Where am I struggling with connecting with others? Where am I struggling with having clarity around the vision and what's going on? What are my strengths and weaknesses? And I know that's an obvious one that's overused everywhere, but you never get there. You don't go, well, here's my strengths and it changes. As soon as you're aware of it, you start working on it.
Well, and that's actually where a big shift happened within Driven, is that Eric and I love to do things together because we are yin and yang, and together we create something magical. I'm the heart, he's the head, he's funny. I'm empathetic, but we can and we realized that we were so comfortable and we started growing. And we also knew that in order to grow, we had to stretch. So we sat down and literally mapped out what our strengths were and how do we operate within those strengths and let each other have our own roles. And once we did that, we started growing even more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mary did read the sheet that I sent ahead of time, because that was one of my big questions, because obviously I've known you guys for a while now, and you are very different people, as you both alluded to. So was that literally like a sit-down meeting of like, let's list it out, or was it over time that you identified each other's strengths and like what you were individually best at?
I went to I am still part of a CEO kind of roundtable group, and I got myself in there. Even it was crazy. I signed up for this thing. We don't have the money to do it, but I signed up for it, and I'm like, I need somebody. I got to get better because where I'm at's not getting there. And I started having CEOs of other companies sit there and go, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it that way?" And start asking the questions. And the guy that led it or still leads it, his name is Lyndon. He's amazing. It really just he's been there, done it. He's run a leadership development company. He's done all these things. And he goes, "So what's your role and what's her role?" And I couldn't articulate it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
because we did everything together.
Everything. Completely not wanting to be
money.
codependent, but it felt codependent in some way.
I do the money. I wouldn't let him have the checkbook.
Yeah, that was probably a good idea. But but it was a pretty interesting conversation, because he's like, okay, so none of it made sense. So that was kind of the spark that I came back and I go, let's figure out roles. And she was all for it. She's like, we need this because we're overlapping everywhere. And so we did map it out. We did sit down. We did kind of a process on it, so to speak, and just write out what we thought our strengths were, where we wanted to be. And there was a whole group of things that were in the middle that neither one of us either wanted to do or felt we had the skill to do. And those are the things that was like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I need to learn how to do it. And she did the same.
And we still do that to this day. It's like, what do you want to do? What fills you up? Eric will ask me that every once in a while. All right, Mary, what's your sweet spot?
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And have you seen that change over time? Like, as the business has grown and start doing more things, what fills the bucket has changed for both of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, so when we first did that, Mary, for the most part, wanted to do everything.
Everything.
Okay. And so Mary has a history and a background of not being put in positions where she felt like she had control over what she was doing and kind of the future and what was going on. And so obviously I want her, I'm okay. We're trusting, we're in that space. So I was like, okay, you want to take over the money? Take over the money. You want to do this? I can do that. I can work through that. The challenge is when her methodology for doing things and mine don't
Don't align.
exactly coexist, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we set up the roles, but then we also set up, check-ins where it's like, okay, how's this going? How's that going? Sometimes we do that better than others, but
Yeah.
so setting up the roles is part of it. Have clarity there, but then have the clarity behind that of going, how are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are
Yeah.
you doing it that way? And have a safe space to be able to question each other, which quite frankly took some time for us too.
Well, and we're almost 15 years into Driven, and
Yeah.
we're now finally figuring this out even more.
Well, I think it's so important to do that because even I've done that in business a little bit, but definitely done that, with Gracie, my wife, in our own marriage. And in those moments where you're like, yeah, these are the things I want to do, and then 3 months go by, but like, I don't know why I wrote that down. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But then you feel stuck, and so I think those check-ins are huge. So I want to ask. So I feel like we've really covered the history and the purpose of Driven, and it was some of that I haven't heard before. So that was amazing. I really want to hear, and this I don't know if you'll have an answer to this, but as y'all have been doing this for a while, 14, almost 15 years in Driven, you did a lot of training and development in the company prior. How have y'all seen leadership and the mindset of leadership change over this long period of time that y'all have been in this industry of leadership development?
Oh, you may get two completely different answers here. We'll see where this goes. You want to go
Let's
first,
go.
No, you can go first.
Okay, go first. So I define leadership as influence, how we influence. So from a behavioral side, there's been nothing new in leadership. Behavior, it's human behavior.
Yeah.
Culturally, things change, and vehicles for doing this podcast. I mean, we're doing this using technology that wasn't there. So if you're talking about leading another person and influencing them to be better or do better, the techniques that go into that, they can get repurposed and said in a different way. They're the same. I love Simon Sinek. He has amazing work, and he's got Start With Your Why. He's got what's the new book that he has? It's on, not that new anymore, but it's on vision and where you're going. No, nobody knows. Okay, he's got another.
No.
It was good too, but the
Not Leaders Eat Last.
no, it's different.
No,
one.
there's another
Anyway,
one.
so but the two
Our
I'm talking
viewers
about.
will know this.
Why gets into purpose and mission, and the other one that I can't think of the name gets into vision, right? Which is consistent. You got to have those things connected to leadership and how you communicate them. He just repackaged them in a different way, and it caught on. It's like the Start With Your Why and the Apple concept and all that. So when you start talking about what has changed, everything has changed in how we go about our day-to-day. In 15 years, like, I don't even think texting was that big of a deal 15 years ago.
No.
In-
Oh my gosh, I
in
had
20
a BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry.
Yeah. So
in 2010, we're not talking about like 30 years
I don't
ago.
know.
I think
she might be going, I had a pager in high school. I know that much. I know I was the
did.
coolest guy out there.
I did.
So what's changing is everything. Everybody talks about everything's getting faster. We're not getting faster.
No.
We're training our brains to interact with the world at a different speed, and in most cases, that means we're giving something up. So for example, I've got since we've been doing this, who knows? I haven't looked, but let's say I've got 20 text messages, very possible since we've been doing this, and 10 emails, right, or more, and phone calls that have come in.
And not talking about Slack. Slack is
Yeah, and then we got Slack on top. So what's happening right there is that I've got with my phone alone, I have the ability to have a conversation, an open conversation that's ongoing with an unlimited amount of people at the exact same time. So just in text messages, I could have 10 text threads that are going at the same time, and we're back and forth and we're talking. So how I manage my time, how I communicate clearly and effectively using less tools. 7% of what we communicate is in writing. Everything else, we're reading body language and our voice inflection and all these things, right?
Yeah.
Most of our communication has gone down to the 7%. How I write matters. I've got GPT writing things that are important for me because I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah.
You know, so it's now, so where I'm spending my time as a leader and how I'm maximizing that to be effective in today's environment. And there's some, you start going into the tech sector and they're doing biohacking and how do I get more out of my day and can I sleep this amount of time, and they're measuring it so that they can be more productive, and they're doing all these things, which I'm not a big fan of because I think the focus is off, but all for it if that's what you're doing. But and then I'll go. I remember this is a few years ago, and I went in and we were working with a company that was in Iowa, and they were a tech company. We still do business with them. They're a wonderful company, and the pace that they go at, I was like, this is how business was 10, 15 years ago. And I'm not saying they're slow people. They're brilliant. They're creating an amazing business. They do sensors and things like that. Yeah. But you go in there and it's a people-based business. And when they communicate, let's slow down. Let's have a meeting.
Yeah. Which is so counterculture in 2024.
Right. So when you're looking at what has changed is now as a leader, I've got more on my plate. I've got to operate better. I've got to be more efficient and effective with my time. I've got to be clear with my communication with less things to work from. And I've got more tools at my disposal. I'm supposed to know how to operate all these apps. And if I don't know how to do it correctly, which Connor, thank you for your patience with me. But it's like, how do you manage your life? And that's why you look at younger generations that are coming in, and I love the mindset. It's like my life matters. You know, I'm going to go hiking for a month. If I need to change jobs over that, then we need to change jobs because my life matters. And you know what, especially in America, I think that's a healthy mindset, you know? Yeah. As long as you got the grit and the fight and all the things that you're doing when you put into the actual work you're doing. But so my perspective on it is leadership itself, how we lead others and behave and all those is very similar. Yeah. The tools that are involved and what's required of us to be at a high level and do that effectively radically shifted.
Yeah. The fuel's the same, the vehicle's quite different.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Well, and I see too, you know, over the years, I think we've lost some just connectivity because you got remote people, things are on Zoom. There's not a lot of as much face-to-face or time because to Eric's point, things are moving so fast. And I hear this, I don't have time. You don't have time for a 2-hour class on exactly what you need because you're looking for communication tools.
That's real.
Right, we get this all the time. And
we have exactly what you need. We need that much of your week.
But they want 7-minute sections or, you know, let's just get on, you know, when I'm
we'll
doing
send you a couple
audibles
TikToks on it.
Right, and it's, so what's happening, and I remember, you know, with our Bold class, we've had people say, well, why don't you do this virtual? You lose the human connection. And I think that's what's happening a lot is because so much is happening that people aren't slowing down and we're not connecting.
Yeah, we work with this really incredible web company. They've grown leaps and bounds, and they're all virtual. And the leader of that company is one of the most charismatic human beings you'll ever meet. She's amazing. So shout out to Jen Bagley if she's watching this. But she's just this charismatic person, and she's got all what over the last couple of years they've just come to this realization they're all virtual. They need touch points. So they get together and they do these amazing things. They just did one. They had it on social media, and they just get in and they connect with each other. But without those connections, what can happen is just we start assuming different things. We don't really know the person. We know them in this format. We know them here. Anyway, so it changes dramatically what's going on and how we influence.
I think we're very much in that in the rubber band zone of like virtual remote work. You know, after or during COVID rubber banded everybody into everyone's remote, everybody's at home, everybody's on video. But now companies like that who embrace the remote still realize that there needs to be some in-person touch points, and there needs to be some of that. So yeah, we're in that unique season, and I even realize as we're talking, I think we sound very old school, you
Yeah.
know, like get off your phone, like just commit to time and go see people, but like that is like Eric, like what you were saying, like that's just part of the human experience, and that's never gonna change, and it can't be replaced. You know, it can be aided by all these tools. I mean, obviously, like we wouldn't be able to work together if we didn't have Zoom and Slack and text and all the things. But finding that balance, specifically like with teams, you know.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that. I was thinking the same thing. I'm listening to myself as we go through this. I'm like, if we're only the '80s, we'd be able to do this better. That's
Get
not,
off your TikToks.
No, I'm actually such a huge fan of all these things that are coming out because used effectively, they do make things easier and better and all those things. I'm just saying there's more pressure to be able to effectively use them.
Yeah.
And there's a really cool exercise if somebody's out there and they manage people, and or even just work around people. Okay, is to take a moment that's different than the rest of the day. You go into work and you do your day and do the normal thing. Take a moment, sit down with someone, look them straight in the face, and even if it's on Zoom, right? And just say, "How you doing?" Have no agenda. How you doing? I'm just checking in. I feel like we haven't checked in a lot. I want to check in. How you doing? And see where it goes. And you may do this, and it's just like they're sitting there like, what the hell's going on? And it's awkward. It could be.
The other person leaves the company
Yeah,
the next day.
they're like,
they made me feel really awkward.
It's a hostile work environment, right? We could go there. But
Yeah.
But it's crazy because just do it. So like we'll run these online courses, and we give them little simple things to do for homework. And I recently ran one, and they were doing we do assessments, right, and learn about people's personalities and what drives them and all those type of things. Mm-hmm. And so we went through that, and we're looking through the company, and there were some where it was like, okay, I never saw that in this person. The assessment looks a little different. I'm like, well, go talk to them. Go, hey, we saw this. What do you see here? And have the conversation. And they're like, oh. I was like some ingenious thing. And it's like, I never thought of that. And it's like,
Yeah.
But that's everything. We make all these assumptions. We got
Yeah.
a million things going on. Just schedule 15 minutes. There was one of the best this guy was I was probably about 30, and I met this guy, and he was the CEO of Electrolux, okay, which is a huge organization. They make vacuum cleaners, but they make a whole lot of other things. And I got to meet him through this company the other company we're working for, and I was kind of blown away by the way he just carried himself, the way he was. Things didn't rattle him. I got to see him in meetings. Like we went into the company, we're looking at him, watching what's going on. And you could really see it and you could feel it. Like it was something tangible that you could feel in his presence, where this guy was like, okay, if the whole world falls apart, this guy's going to be okay and we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I would never get that over Zoom. I would never get that in those places. And yet you get around this guy and he didn't even have to talk to you. You were inspired being around him because of how he showed up. And I know that sounds weird. I mean, it just, it wasn't some woo-woo weird thing. The guy just was confident. He was clear. He was articulate. He took time with each person. He'd look them in the eyes. He'd shake their hand. He'd, all the old school stuff.
Yeah.
But they were Electrolux at the time and still cutting edge, working at, but the people side of it, if we really focus in on the people side and we're leading people, we're going to get massive results. Trust gets built. Connection gets built. People get engaged. They're loyal not because they're supposed to the paycheck. They're loyal because they're excited about working with people. They have best friends there. They're not afraid to connect. I could ramble on and on about this, but it's the secret sauce that isn't a secret.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Gosh, I remember way back in the day, my older jobs, where the manager would just pull you into the office and talk. Just had time, just had the face-to-face, the connection. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Connection, intentionality.
Yeah. I love the point, too, being, and I hope we drive this home, of it's important to learn and go find the leadership books, find the Simon Sinek, do all that stuff, couple it with the new school things, and that's where magic happens, right? Whenever you have, foundational leadership principles that you just invest in, and then lean into the new stuff and make it work, but don't sacrifice what is proven to have worked.
I call
way
that the
back.
and. So many people live in the or. They have to do this or that. Well, why
Yeah.
don't you do this and this and this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we say all this that we're cutting edge as I've got my earphones that are.
Yeah, you're wired. I don't even know what to call them. They're not AirPods,
I-
obviously.
I had the modern headset. We couldn't make it work. So
Well, I was told recently that people don't listen to podcasts longer than 15 minutes. Hopefully we shatter that expectation because I'm not done yet. I have
Okay.
one last thought here, and we can wrap this up for our mega episode about what Driven is. According to Mary's timeline, this October will hit 15 years since the beach
Birth.
moment,
Yep.
the inception of
Okay.
Driven. So as you look to the next 15 years or the next 5 to 10 years, if that's more manageable, what are y'all's dreams, hopes, aspirations of what Driven becomes in this next season? And I say season specifically because for everybody who doesn't know, the team has grown a little bit in the past year. You've hired a few team members, myself included. So what does that vision
It
look like
sounded
for
like
you guys?
you said fired. I'm like, we didn't
Oh, no. No. Brought on new faces, new
Hired.
fire. Yeah, hired.
it's not yet. We'll let Connor know tomorrow.
Oh, God. No.
You know, I've always had this dream, and Eric and I we started writing, and to watch this come to life. We always wanted an online presence, so bringing that because to what we just talked about, people can't just go away for 2.5 days or have us come and do live because a lot of times people are remote. So having more of an online presence where it's an academy style, having a whole coaching arm, having the sustainability. Definitely want that t-shirt line, clothing line.
Yes.
You know, even having thoughts of getting like an EOS type of a program within Driven where we can truly help companies long terms with strategy. That's not going to be Eric and I. Well, it's not going to be me. I don't like the strategy piece. I just give me your heart and I'm going to, like stir you up and put you on fire.
Yeah.
What do you got, Eric?
Love it.
Yeah. So I love this question, by the way. So it's been a few years. Mary and I sat down. We did this little exercise where it was you were to
We
draw
drew stuff on napkins.
Yeah, you're to draw pictures. You can't use words of
Oh,
your vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember Mary drew something that embodied human beings, breakthrough, on fire, everything she talks about, who she is.
Okay.
I drew a factory. and
That checks out.
and
Eric's really not sterile.
it's sterile. I
Like,
don't know where you're going with that.
Just
So,
a factory.
The
I'm fire. He's got a factory.
no, yeah, what I've always dreamed about within Driven is so for years we'd look at people go through Bold and Forge and they're coming out and they're going and they're doing amazing things in their life, right? They come out just like Mary talks about and they're kind of on fire and they're going for it. And I've always looked at it and I'm like, let's scale this. Let's go see if we can really make an impact. Let's go see, and it's not that we're not making an impact. It's like the starfish story. We've made an impact to this one. I'm like, how do we get more starfish through this? And how do we grow a business out of this that is not the Mary and Eric show? That is, we have some things that work, and let's capitalize on those. But let's not find people better than us that really are excited about, yes, the purpose, making a difference and do all that, but they're also excited about things like building systems and making things work or just connecting with people or whatever it is. And let's start having the lights come on with people internally in the organization. And so currently we're primarily, we hold some of our flagship products on the West Coast. We have a pace to them. We have the online when we're Coaching's probably next year-ish, and I don't know when this T-shirt line is. That's just the short term.
Yeah.
The long term is a number of things. One huge thing is retreat centers that are actually kind of the way we need them to run these. What we do that's different, what we know is dramatically different, is we give people an opportunity in a very short period of time to make some radical shifts. And we do it in a specific way, and having places to hold these things is very difficult, but then it also gives us hubs, so we can start being on the East Coast, we can start being in the Midwest, not just on the West Coast. But past that, as technology advances, so you start getting into delivery methods. So VR is not there yet. It's not. But we were just talking about this. We're just in a meeting.
Yep.
What we want to be is on the cutting edge of how to get people to perform better in the areas they want to. And so cutting edge right now is generally, you think of technology and all of that, sure. But we also want to bring in psychologists and people that are in this field and start having them look at what we're doing and take it to another level. We want to bring in process engineers and architects that build processes that help people have the lights come on and think, because we get them more tactical and they're engaged. We want delivery methods like VR is the one we can see, probably more AR at this point, but to where we can send off a whole bunch of headsets in an open room and we can have a training where they're operating it right there that's cost effective, but they're involved and they're engaged. At the end of the day, Driven is always going to be a company that's about how do we bring these concepts into reality so that you're putting them in play, you're taking action right now, you're changing something, not just getting the academic side. We'll get the academic side, but now you got to do something with it. Leadership is not about watching. I always think of swimming, because if you're going to teach swimming, you can draw it up on the whiteboard, you can do all that, but it's how do we get you in the water and keep you safe, but have you struggle with it a little bit and work through it. So we're looking for ways to expand that. Yes, we want to get bigger. Yes, we want to go in different places and all these things. But we're looking for ways that we can be on that front edge of how do we help the lights come on, people take action, revolutionize individuals and business. And so that's where we want to play.
And there's another whole element that we're passionate about, the college sports teams, and we want to work with coaches.
Yeah.
Because we look at, there's great coaches and there's not so great coaches. The coaches know how to coach the skill, the tactical, and where we come in is how do we help you build the team and truly help you connect with your vision with the players to get the most out of them so that they don't lose the passion for their play.
I think that's a whole nother podcast, right?
Right.
That's what
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so I won't get too far into it, but really, right about when we started Driven, we had a connection with an amazing guy, David Roditi. He's a
TCU men's head.
national champs this year. Right?
That's right. That's right.
So that was 14.
He grew up with us.
15 years ago, he was coaching at the ITA out USTA, thank you, out in California, and Mary came in and started working with them a little bit, did some coaching and things like that. And then when he went to TCU, he brought Mary in to do a training.
Because I said, David coaches me, coaches too.
Right. And
then I said, David, let me at your team.
And the stories, and like I said, I'll make it brief, but it's the same stuff we're doing in business. It's the same stuff we're doing.
Orlando came from David.
Yeah.
Orlando was in the very first training that I ever did for them. Yeah.
But
amazing.
But what's incredible, like Mary's talking about, it's the same stuff we're doing for business. It's honestly, when coaches stop leveling up, when they start looking for ways to grow and they get settled into the system or they're not willing to change, their teams get stagnant. Yeah. And so when we can shake them up and help them grow and advance and then support them with the team, it's the right word. It's very inspiring. It's like you get connected and you see these, and now some of them have, Cam Norrie was just in Wimbledon, went pretty deep in it. He's like a all these cool things. We got to see them in college, and then there's like a passion there for this place in kids' lives where they're 18 to 25, their brain's still developing, and they get to see how to really develop a team, grow a team, be around a leader that's a coach, make a difference. We get excited about that one too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll have to have a athletic specific kind of rundown.
Oh, we will. It'll be fun.
That'll go for a while.
We got
But
some
it's just the coaches. I mean, it's business. What Eric was just saying, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So if a coach isn't leveling up, if a business owner, if a business leader isn't leveling up, and we look at teams and they wonder why the team isn't performing, well, it starts at the top.
Yeah.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. And so we help them level up.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, look, I think we have a very clear picture of what Driven is. So thank you both so much for talking through it. I'm sure you've told the stories 1,000 times, but y'all still get really fired up about it. So it's really cool to see.
But it's our life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like always, if y'all have any questions, please submit them in the comments here on Spotify or wherever you're listening. Send them to the info@drivenleadership.com email. We want to hear from you guys. We can do a follow-up to this if you have questions of like, no, we need more info on how the details, the dirty details.
What?
How Eric sees factories and I see people on the factory.
Yeah.
It's real.
So, awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, you guys, and we'll see you in the next one, everybody.
Thanks for this, Connor.
Thank you.